in Chicago in 1963. He had been arrested in Philadelphia in demonstrations about a construction site. And the first time I had ever seen him was in, I think, a picture in Mohammed Streets with blood running down his head because he had been hit by a policeman and was being hauled off to jail. And this was in the spring of '63, and the head of the NAACP in Philadelphia did not think it was safe to come to Chicago for the convention and leave behind Muhammad Ahmad and the other brothers who were not exactly following NAACP policies on nonviolence and everything else. So they got a free trip to Chicago, where I was. The other thing is to kind of back up a little bit to give you kind of sky view of the whole thing. What's important to note, if you look at the scholarship, and that's what I've been studying these things for years now, is that people tend to write about these movements as if they're these separate things going on. There's a civil rights movement over here, there's black power over here, there's a white left over here, and so forth. And the world in which we live, the world in which we came into consciousness, was involved in all of those. Right? The whole notion, there's a post-1960 notion that there's something called identity politics, was not something we ever heard of at the time. We had no idea what anybody was talking about. We never, ever, ever thought that because somebody was black, it meant they were on your side. You know, the slogan of RAM is unite or perish. Right? The reason you have to unite is because obviously black people are divided. Right? So you cannot base anything on skin color. We never, nobody ever believed that. Ever, ever believed that. You know, that everything black is beautiful. You know better. You'd be dead if you believe some nonsense like that. Right? Because the black person will kill you. Right? A black policeman will lock you up. You know, a black army will kill other black people in Africa or the West Indies. Right? There are black men fighting in Vietnam and glad to do so. Right? So we've never, ever, ever had any kind of reduction to simplistic foolishness called identity politics. That's a post-1960s formulation. Right? On the part of the failures of the white left to explain why they couldn't organize white people. Well, we could organize white people, said black people organize black people, therefore nobody wanted to get together. No, no, no. Nobody ever stopped black people organizing white people. You're free to organize all the white people you want, and you don't have to ask our permission. Right? And if there had been a white left as powerful as a black left, then we'd have socialism in this country. Right? Because we're only 10% of the population. You know. And if the white left is going to use the failure of black people to help them out to build socialism as the reason for not having socialism, that's a burden we're not taking or bearing. That's not our responsibility. Right? White left is a majority population. It's their responsibility to organize white people. Their responsibility to build a trade union movement that we can participate in. Right? And so the notion that RAM somehow was some kind of separatist group and we didn't like white people, it's just not so. We interacted with the white left. There were principal people in the white left. Studies on the Left, edited by Marty Sklar, who I spent 2 years sharing office with in Northern Illinois. Right? All these kids came out of the Young Communist League. They all went to Madison. They broke with the Communist Party and formed Studies on the Left. It was Marty, right, who was active in the movement in Baltimore, right, who said that he wanted to, before I even met him, so you have to keep track of what black people are doing, whether we like it or not. So he published Harold Cruz, Revolutionary Nationalism and African American, and Studies on the Left. He published an interview with Robin Williams and Studies on the Left to try to acquaint the white left with shifting trends in the black community. This is before black power. This is 1961, 1962, 1963. We're not waiting for Stokely Carmichael to tell us about black power in 1966. Right? We have black organizations in 1961, 1962, 1963, and in 1965 in Chicago, we formed an organization for black power. Using those words. It's a year before Stokely said anything in 1966. Right? You know, and the way the scholarship was coming down, if you have no idea the complexities of the way that we interacted with people. You had support from white communists. Right? Herbert Aptheker. You know, we formed the Negro History Club. The first speaker we had was Herbert Aptheker, who spoke for free. Well, we had much money anyway, that he volunteered to speak for free. Well, how do I know how to find Herbert Aptheker? Well, Dick Proston, whose father Jesse Proston, you know, white communist who organized Teamsters and Packing House, knew Herbert Aptheker. That's where Herbert stayed when he came to Chicago. And Dick, I went to Roosevelt University, which was city college for black people. Right? People talk about how radical city college was. That's all white people. Roosevelt University was city college that was mixed. Sinclair Drake, right? Chuck Hamilton, Lorenzo Turner. City college, what they thought they would like to be if they could find some black intellectuals and radicals to participate with them. Well, that's what we had at Roosevelt, right? So in that world, every political tendency was represented. So you could go from table to table. Here are the Social Democrats, the YPSOs, and here's the SWP, dyed-in-the-wool Marxists. I always liked the Trotskyists because they made you read whole books. CP gave you pamphlets. ABCs of Marxism, the 5 points of this. Like, come on, man, come on. The Trotskyists will give you like read Capital. It's a big book, man. It's like read Capital. Read Trotsky's History of the Russian Revolution. That's 800 pages, man. Like, come on. But the Trotskyists did serious Marxism. CP gave you dot. It's like, okay, I got it. Everybody's good. The bourgeoisie is good. The workers are bad. Blah blah. But they could organize, right? So Ishmael Floyd let us use this mimeograph machine, African-American Heritage Association. I was asked to join the Communist Party by William Patterson, Ishmael Floyd, and Claude Lightfoot. And I kind of turned them down. It says, no, I want to be in an organization that puts black people first, and you can't promise me that in the Communist Party. And I asked them that. And they said, oh, come join us in the party. I said, what would happen if the black people's interests conflicted with the interests of the Soviet Union? What would your position be? Dead silence for at least a minute. They said, we have to take this on a case-by-case basis. I'm not joining no such organization that has to think about whether they're going to help black people. We wanted an organization to put black people first. And we learned that early on. I was in CORE also. I was the chair of Chicago CORE for a while. We ran the way off the platform in Chicago in 1963 at the NAACP convention. Right? We were active in Friends of SNCC. We were involved in any movement of black people that was a progressive movement. Right? What pushed us, and I don't know whether Muhammad had read this or not, but I grew up in Washington, D.C. on the campus of Howard University. And the person that moved all of us was E. Franklin Frazier. Right? If you read Black Bourgeoisie, right, whatever you wanted to be in your whole life, you did not want to be in that book. Right? If that is talking about you, get yourself together and do something, because that's a devastating attack on black people and the black middle class. But it was accurate because that's the world. We're sitting there out on the quad, watching the ladies go by, talking about parties and floor-shine shoes and Dobbs hats and where the next party is and playing basketball. And Fraser said, y'all ain't about nothing. You're useless. You're not a bourgeoisie. You don't own nothing. You're not intellectuals. You can't think. What are you good for? And we read that, and Fraser's right there on the campus with us. I have an autographed first edition, because every book that came out in Howard's factory, I got copies of. And Fraser said, read this, young buck. He put it out in French first. It was 2 years in the Howard Library in French. And people would claim they read it. And Fraser said, that Negro can't read, but he don't know what my book says. And when they finally brought out an English translation, we read it. I did not want to face Mr. Fraser ever in life and think I was one of the people in his book. Right? So we got to do something. Us, this younger generation of young black people, you got to do. That's not us. That is not us. If that is, we're not going to be that no more. And so we began to move. We didn't know what we were moving about, but anything that moved. Well, it's going to lunch counter, do lunch counter. Eastern Shore of Maryland, Eastern Shore of Maryland. You want to go down south? Hey, half of the people I went to high school with, Joe and Snicken, went south. Ralph Featherstone, Ruthie Howard, Gloria House, that whole group. Right? You're sitting around, this is our party group. Every weekend, Friday, Saturday, party, do your homework on Sunday, shop on Monday night, so you're looking good for the next weekend. That was our lives. So we had to do better than this. So we began to move. I left Howard because you never go to school where your parents teach because you have no idea what's going on. So I went to Roosevelt in Chicago and immediately immersed myself in the movement in Chicago. Because there was a movement. I didn't tell them what to do. They told me that they needed my help, and I did what they told me to do. But it was pretty clear that watching people come up from the South, the SNCC people would come up to Chicago for recreation, kind of rest and recuperation. I met LaVon Brown and Jimmy Travis. Jimmy Travis had buckshot in his neck where the Klan had shot him, And when he got, damp or cold, he couldn't turn his head. He said, I got to be careful, man, this buckshot is moving around me, LaVon Brown had his neck in a brace because they had tried to wring his head off. Right? And they would come up and we looked after them. And my job was to keep them out of trouble. And they looked at me saying, Mississippi is bad, but Chicago ain't all that either. You know, so like what you doing up here? We appreciate your help in Mississippi, but what you doing up here? You know, so you begin to look at, okay, I'm helping you as if I'm free. You say, no, you got your own problems. You know, so there was no separation. North and South were the same. They came up, we went down. Right? James Foreman came out of Roosevelt, studied with Sinclair Drake 10 years before me. Right? Was going to Boston University to study African history. That's where you get one man, one vote. That's the Nkrumah slogan. Positive Action Movement and God's Way Foreman got that. He just made the wrong turn, headed for Ghana, and ended up down in Mississippi, but he kept the same slogan. You know, so it became the SNCC slogan. They always had an African consciousness. Always. From the beginning. We always would have banged on the world. We knew about that. We read Richard Wright, The Color Curtain. We're people of color, rising tide of color, but always, we're not any narrow, marginal kind of black thing. Right? Our allies were people of color throughout the world, revolutionaries throughout the world. We read Lenin, we say, oh, Lenin's a white man, you can't read him. You know, well, you can't read Marx, he's a European. Like, no, we were never that stupid. Never that stupid. You read the successful revolutionaries because that's what you wanted. And we understood early on from reading Fraser, or Julius Hobson, or Abram Harris, or Charles Wesley, you know, his book on labor, you know, or Spiro and Harris, or Caton Mitchell, that Al Du Bois is saying a system based on universal greed, an individual greed cannot bring universal good. That's Du Bois when he joined the Communist Party. A system based on private greed can never bring universal good. Right? You can push all you want, you will not solve the problems of black people in this country under capitalism. We knew that by 1962, right? But a lot of people didn't know that. A lot of people didn't believe that. A lot of people said, like, what y'all talking about? You're a bunch of communists. We're trying to be. Trying to be. You know, so you work with what's happening where you are. You don't go out there and say, I'm not going to talk to you because you don't believe everything I say. Our slogan was unite or perish. So that means you want to organize and interact with people who don't agree with you. That's why you're unite with. That's who we're uniting with. Right? So I would go into court and they say, well, we're going to be nonviolent. I say, well, that's okay, but is it okay to protect the sisters when the cops start stepping on them and grabbing them on the breast and the crotch, which is what they did? Can we protect the sisters in that case? And don't call me a chauvinist. If somebody touched my sister, I'm knocking their head up. I don't care whether that's based off or not. You touch my mother, you're dead. You don't play that. You know. There's nothing about gender politics that says black women ought to be abused. They've been abused their whole time in this country. You know, and there's no equality that says you should allow that to happen. Right? So when those policemen stepped over us to grab black women and white women by the breasts and by the crotch and were beating them up and arresting them, we stopped that. I don't care about court discipline or nonviolent discipline, we stopped that. You know, and if you want to put us out of an organization because we're not following nonviolent principles, well, we just took over core and did it our way. We said, okay, you can take your nonviolent, but we keep an organization. Black power in core. You know, we don't think that the movement, we had to do all the suffering. I'm in jail. I got to get a lawyer, but I'm right, so this is not working. Right? I got locked up 10 times. I had to get a lawyer. I had to take a day in court. I had to sit there and listen to all this gobbledygook. Right, and take my time, and I'm right. They're the ones that are wrong. Why am I doing all this stuff with all the burying? We're burying people. They're not burying a whole lot of white people. Right? Wayne Yancey, you know, got locked up with me, you know, in court. Went down to Mississippi and was dead in a month. Dead in a month. Yeah. All you did, you went to funerals. Everybody knows somebody's dead. Somebody, you know, Emmett Till in Chicago. You can still raise money off of Emmett Till's images. 14-year-old kid, right? You live in a world surrounded by people that think a 14-year-old kid's going to take your wife. What kind of manhood is that? Right? You're surrounded by white men that think a 14-year-old kid is a threat to their family, and that their wife is going to run off with him because he said something to her. That's pathetic, right? If a 14-year-old kid says something to my wife and she came home and told me that, I would say, my God, he's got great taste. Of course you're beautiful and fine. That's why I married you. And he recognized that's a bright kid. I don't think I'm going to go out here and beat him up and kill him, because he's not going to take my wife. I'm confident of that. I don't have no problem with that. Right? That doesn't demean me, but you're surrounded by people who, the depth of their racism was such that everything threatened them. So the notion of peaceful change, negotiating your way past that level of racism, was out of my head early on. Right? So when Muhammad came through, and I did meet Don Freeman, and Tommy Higginbottom and Sykes, and we had a Amherst Society and a Black History Club. And Muhammad came through, and again, it's like, what y'all doing, da-da-da-da-da, and we try to be peaceful because we try to be cool, right? I had a life before I met Muhammad, and then, part of a life, right? And so we're going to join the NAACP. He's in the NAACP, which I thought was kind of bougie organization, but I'll hang with it anyway. And the mayor welcomed me in the NAACP to Chicago and said, this is a wonderful group, but we don't need it here because we have no ghettos in Chicago. And he said, oh, no, why you want to do that? Why you want to say that? Now, we were cool to you. We're going to let it slide till you said that. Now we mad. We mad now. No. So we organized all of their youth councils, right? Mississippi especially, right? Alabama, Georgia. Right? We get everybody from the hood, and we're at the back of the parade. Mayor Daley and the leadership's in the front, and from about 50 yards on back, it's the hood. Right? And I think they're saying, where are these people leading us? Right? Why are we following them? And by the time we get to Grand Park, it's on. It's on. So when the mayor walks out to speak, no. And our main support, the Mississippi Youth Councils, somebody, again, that had a spy in the group, told about them, so they put them on the stage as an honorary guest of the convention. So 100 of our, backup was sitting up there on the stage with the mayor. What we supposed to do? You go with what you got. Well, with those kids, they jumped up and kicked out all the wires on the stage, so all the mics went dead. So people on the stage are talking in the dead mics, and you know how bad that is if you try to get control of a crowd and your mic ain't working. So we ran that sucker off the stage. Right? Then they ran J.H. Jackson off the stage. And the city of Chicago, the mayor of Chicago, police department in Chicago, came at us with everything they had and said, who are these crazy young people? They're talking revolution, they're talking nonsense. I know people in Chicago don't believe that, and black people stood behind us and said, yes, we do. Right? Tim U. Black was called into the mayor's office and said, Tim, are these some crazy young black people? He says, no, they speak for the black people of Chicago. Leave them alone. Otherwise, I wouldn't be sitting here today. Because by the time I got home, they had hit my block and talked to my neighbors and told people I was a drug addict, and was an alcoholic, and was an abuser of women in the neighborhood, and why would anybody want to follow me? They're talking to my cousins. They're too dumb to know that that's who I live next door to. So by the time I get home, everybody on the block saying, what did you do today? Because they're all over this place trying to talk about how bad they just left. So we thought you were okay. Right? Because we work on their issues. I didn't walk into their living rooms and talk revolution. I said, that's what I believe. That's my analysis. What do you need to make your life better from your point of view? I will help you with that. And that's what we did. That's why we had support. Right? I would talk to the young gang kids. I never said, oh, being in a gang is terrible. You should all go to school and all become ministers and go to church. No. Okay, what are you doing? Why are you in this gang? Right? Why are you hurting each other? What's in your life that's so bad that you have to do this to other black people? And why don't we deal with that, okay? And so I never carried a gun around gangs. Right? Because they saw violence as a way to deal with the world. Where did they learn that from? Grown-ups. We have the largest military in the world, and we wonder why young people carry guns. They're imitating grown-ups. Right? How are you going to tell anybody in the world they ought to be peaceful if you're dropping bombs on every country in the world? Yeah. Little kids look at what you do, not what you say. Right? If you want peace in the world, grown-ups have to act peaceful. Then young kids will follow them. But if every time we have a problem, we pick up a gun and young people pick up a gun and say, that's what daddy does, that's what mommy does, that's what I guess you're supposed to do when you have a problem, shoot something. Right? So we would go to them and talk about that is not a way to do things. Try it this way. Why don't you work on this and that? And so that was the basis for our support. Revolutionary Action Movement worked at many levels. That's why we don't get written much about in the history books. I mean, people will come up and look at you straight in the face and say, they must not have done anything because we don't find any record. You know, we were an underground group. You know, usually if you have an underground group that has, you know, cell structure, like the Communist Party, very effective organizing tool, you're not exactly keeping records. I mean, you really seriously think we're taking minutes of all the meetings and pass them out to everybody in mass quantities? Come on. Right? The book that Charles mentioned, Black Nationalism in America, right? It's a random project. Right? Reason I did it, right, two things. Reason I did it was Muhammad, who had legal problems, which were substantial, very substantial, needed in fact to get out of the country and go read Rob Williams in Africa, right? Nobody has any money, so the two white guys out, that I knew from, arguing about, taught me at Roosevelt, they said, oh, you want to do a book on black nationalism? Why do I want to do a book on black nationalism with two white guys? Right? What kind of politics is that? I said, is there any money involved? He said, oh yeah, we get a $5,000 advance. I said, well, what's my cut? About $1,500. Well, I ought to get Muhammad to Tanzania. I'm down. Right? The last section of the book, a revolutionary action movement people. We don't say that. General Baker's in there. That's what Charles liked. We got Jen's letter to the draft board. We have the we have the Republic of New Africa. Right? We have Malcolm X. Right? We have Huey Newton and some elements in the Black Panther Party. So if you want to see Ram's influence, just go to the last section of Black Nationalism in America. It's all Ram. It's all Ram. Right? We're not going to tell you that. We're not going to hold a press conference and announce that we have influence in a bunch of organizations. Then we wouldn't be underground no more. Right? That's the whole point. So I can get the Crusade out because I can put it in a textbook with two white guys' name on it. So we say, oh, this is Robert Williams Crusade. Yeah, I'm trying to teach it so people can see how crazy these black people are. I teach it every time I get a chance. I pass it out in class. Make sure they can read this Robert Williams guy. This is really terrible stuff here. You want more copies? Take some home. What are you going to do? Academic freedom, right? That's what I told the FBI when they came and asked me about this stuff. They said, you're teaching revolutionary action movement. I said, yes, I am. It's class. It's very important. We should learn about the enemies of our people. The other would say, are you kidding me? Am I? Scholarship. Right? That was part of the role that I played. Right? I can do things publicly because I'm a student. Right? You get the information out in the realms where you want people to read it, where they can't come at you. Because the Crusader was held up in the mails. When I would get it, and we would get it through Canada, because you couldn't get it straight from China or Cubans, had to come through Canada. And you always got it at the post office. When it came from China, the post office would give you a notice and would say, you have received communist propaganda, please pick it up within 5 days. Well, you got the postcard the 4th day. Right? So you rush to your local post office, the brothers are in there, where's my mail? It's all beat up in a corner with a shrink, some tape on it, and some of it damaged and hammered. I said, look, if you want a copy of the Crusader, why don't you just open it up? I will give you one. And then give me the rest of my mail. They said, we're about to destroy it. I said, why don't y'all just lighten up? They said, man, this is what our job is. They know they're doing. They know they're wrong. They said, this is what our job is. Come on. But that's how, once you got it in, and once you get it in a magazine or journal, then it's out there, right? So I could tell my history professor, why don't you teach Negroes with guns? Well, here's a very, yeah, I understand. We have to confront these different points of view. We went to see Malcolm X all the time. We talked to Malcolm. Malcolm said, you want to join the nation? Same thing he told Bahama. We said there in Chicago. He said, no, you work better on the outside than on the inside. So I'm asked by Malcolm to join the Nation of Islam, by William Patterson to join the Communist Party. See, that's our ideology, unite or perish. I need the Marxism from the left. Right? I need the nationalism from Malcolm. Right? I'm not making a choice. I need the action of Dr. King. When Dr. King came to Chicago, I went to Gage Park with him. I don't believe in $9. But when King came, people moved. And if you have any notion of organizing people, when people move, you go with them. You don't sit on the sideline and criticize them because they won't listen to you. You say, okay, I ain't down with the nonviolent thing, but if Dr. King is going, I'm going to go help him. And when they start throwing the bricks, I was skeptical, and I wasn't so sure about this. But as long as he had the courage to stand up, you had to stand up there with him. Right? So when I critique the limits of nonviolence, I'm critiquing it from the same jail cell as they are. So they listen to me. Because you have a lot of time in jail to talk to people, because the lawyers are always late. You know, so you get to, even they always come like, you know, we be there by 12 o'clock at night. You know, so you have a lot of time to talk. So you can talk about, look, like, why are we in jail? This is not working. Like, Dr. King got hit with a brick. Like, what's with that? I can't say that from outside. I got to be inside to say that. Right? But you don't impose your values on other people. You know, you don't impose. You interact with people. We talk to young people. We talk to gang people. That was what our view was. Our views haven't changed. I've never, ever for a second, neither has Muhammad, ever repudiated anything we did. My only regret is that we didn't win. Not that we didn't try, but that we didn't win. Right? I don't regret a single thing I did. Not a single thing. I don't regret the failures. You know, I don't regret the things that could have been better in my life if I had sold people out, and you had ample opportunity to do that. Right? I don't regret the things, you know, the weight that people had to take. You know, the only thing I regret is that we didn't win everything that we wanted. That's the only regret. You know, and I tell my kids, and I have kids, you know, and they learned early on that when they asked for help to do about half of what I said, because the rest of that they get thrown out of school. So take half of what Dad said, that'll be good enough. But don't go in here and call the principal a bunch of MFs and stuff, because that's not cool. But at least it'll do just nicely. But they know not to back up. You know, and the struggle is long. Right? If I had quit and started, you know, growing vegetables on the top of a mountain in 1970 and said, well, the movement's a failure, that was that, then they wouldn't do that. They would not know the struggle is a lifelong thing. You know, and so we continue. You know, and that's why we don't get written about. Right? You know, Malcolm was dead. King is dead. We're still here. Right? We haven't been in any books repudiating, you know, our crazy 1960s days. It was the best days of our lives. You know, got up every morning saying, what can we do today to shut down the city of Chicago? That's a great feeling. Because you know you're right and you can do it. 50 people, I can shut down rush hour on the outer job and have traffic backed up to Guerrilla in there. And be doing it for a righteous cause. Right? Every day. Right? There's no better way to live than that. Right? And it's not about money. It's not about getting patted on the back. Right? But you only get so much time on the planet. Right? And what you want to do is to be able to sit there, you know, because I have grandkids, and I want to be able to look at my little grandkids and they say, well, Grandpa, there was racism in the 1960s and people fought. What did you do? I say, I was there. And I can put out my old poetry, my FBI file, most of which is crap, but enough of it makes sense to me. So I did the best I could. And I want you to pick up where we left off, because we left some things undone, you know. And we're not going to be in the books like other people. We're not the Panthers. People focus on the Panthers because they destroyed them. You know, if you're going to overthrow the government, you don't put on a uniform. Why don't you just put a target on your chest? Like, shoot me. You know, no, they don't write about us because we did that. We were not destroyed. You know, General Baker organized, coming out of Ram, organized Detroit, and one of the greatest organizers this planet has ever seen. And organized to the day he died. Right? And inspired. You from Detroit, you know Jen's influence, Jen's power. Right? That's the kind of people that we had in Ram. Right? It ain't about your name, it ain't about being famous, it ain't about being on TV. It's about a commitment to make a world where every human being, and not just black people, every human being can live in a just world. And if black people, because of our suffering, puts us in the vanguard of that struggle, then that's the burden that we pick up willingly. That's the burden that we still pick up today. Right? Because there's still no white left in this country. You know, and anything that moves this country is black people. 14 black kids in Ferguson, Missouri can move the country more than 100 white people. Right? And things are moving now because black people are moving again.
Come on now.
Right? If the society is upset now, it's because black teenagers in Baltimore
Come on now.
are throwing bricks at the They ain't scared no more. That's a good thing. You say, well, they don't have no program. They're on their feet again. I don't care what the program is. They're on their feet again, and they'll decide where they want to go. And if they don't do it the way we did it, that's not for us to decide.
That's right.
We're to help them go where they want to go. Not dictate to them, not chastise them.
That's right.
Give them the burden of our experience, the wisdom that we have, and they will take what they want to take. Like I took a little bit from Claude Lightfoot, a little bit from Malcolm, a little bit from Bob, you know, and work toward, again, this unification. That's what RAM was. Right? And that's not a picture that the ruling class is going to give you and say, oh, study this group. No, study the ones we killed and destroyed. That's what they want you to think. It's the Panthers are the most revolutionary group in the whole world. Not really. Not really. I love Fred Hampton. I knew Fred Hampton. The black policeman told us that they were going to kill Fred Hampton, and Fred wouldn't move. Lenin went into exile. Ho Chi Minh went into exile. Stalin went into exile. Why the hell can't Fred Hampton leave Chicago and go down south and chill for a while? Fidel Castro went into exile. Right. Why would you have a revolutionary organization that says stand and keep standing in front of a gun until somebody kills you? That's not revolution. And we argued with Fred about that. Fred, they're going to kill you. Back up a little bit. Come back and fight again. No, I got to go up to the mountain. No. That's not revolution. That's foolishness. Ho Chi Minh is in Harlem baking cakes before he goes back to Vietnam. And say, oh man, he's sold out. He's begging. Lenin's looking at the opera when the Russian Revolution broke out. He's in Switzerland. How come he ain't down with the people? Because he wants to be alive to be down with the people. Right? That's what we understood. You know, tactics, strategy. There's a time to move forward. There's a time to move backward. There's a time to consider where you are. I read police manuals because that's who your opponents are. You say, why are you reading that? Because that's who's out there. I don't know what they think. They read what I think. I read what they think too.
That's right.
I read police manuals. Like, so when they come out there, I say, oh, I know what this is. This is where they're going to do this, this, and this. So we're going to do this, this, and this.
Right.
You know, my family locked me in the house when the Ferguson broke out. They said, Dad, don't. I said, I'm not going. I'm too old to go with it. A tank and a bunch of fools lined up. Oh, we got this. Come on. No. If this is the best they got, come on. And I can't even move. We'd have been there. Right? No, give me 5 people. I can handle this. A tank? And a bunch of dudes looking like they in a desert somewhere? Can't move because they got so much crap on, and they think I'm supposed to stand in front of them and be scared? No, I'm behind them. I'm in a white neighborhood. I'm in the Lexus, you know, where they sell them $100,000 cars. That's where I am. I'm not standing in front of a bunch of people in no big tank. Che Guevara on guerrilla warfare. Mao Zedong on guerrilla warfare. Right? No. Read Bracey. War's a position, war's a maneuver. Right? If you don't have firepower, you should have superior mobility. Right? So if you got a tank, I need mobility. If I got a tank, then you need mobility. I don't have no tank, so I got to stay in the wind, right? That's what we know. That's what we understood because we studied. We were not stupid people. We were not fanatics. Like we were young people, we were students. We read vociferously. We read everybody's experience and truth from that. White, black, blue, green, anything else. You know, and that's why we're still here. You know, and that's the story we want to get out. You know, and we don't want these kind of romantic kind of things that people have about how people did things. We don't want that. We don't expect you to see everything we did because you're not supposed to see everything we did. Yeah. So it's okay if the book says, well, they didn't do anything. You know, like Waldo Martin, bam, armchair revolutionary. We don't see any evidence of what they did. Good. That means we successfully evaded, your documentary record. Now, we did put out the RAM papers, I'm an editor, that's my historical job. So we will give you our view of what we did. Read Robert Williams' papers, read, Muhammad's papers. Read Muhammad's book. Also read Muhammad's master's dissertation, which gives you another detailed view of what RAM did. The material is there. You just have to get past the glitter and the glitz. Read our involvement in the Southern movement with SNCC, the fights inside of SNCC. I was in the South in the spring of '65, not to tell people what to do, but to talk to people. This is your movement, it's not my movement. You have courage, you have tremendous skill. You're going to get killed doing this stuff the way you're doing it now. So in '66, boy, you got black power. We told you. Told you in 1963. So it took you 4 years to get the black power. Okay. I don't knock that. But if you listen to '63, you could have saved a lot of lives. Right? We said black power in 1963, you say, y'all some kind of black crazy people. Okay, keep doing the nonviolent thing. Like Charlie Cobb's new book said, this nonviolent thing that gets you killed. Right? That's Charlie Cobb's new book, just came out. Right? That's the title of it, this nonviolent thing will get you killed. So that's who we are, that's what we did. That's why people should pay a little bit of attention to us. Not to make us feel good, but so you can learn and understand how you confront a society. That has all the surveillance apparatus of a totalitarian state with the democratic veneer over it, so you don't see the iron fist all the time. And the benefit of young people now is that they've shown you the iron fist. So you can't hide and say, oh no, this is really a peaceful, loving, everybody loves everybody. No, this suckers will kill you. They will kill you. If young white kids say, there's a 1% that runs this sucker and destroy them. They will never give Occupy credit for determining how we look at this country today. They say there's a 1%. Now everybody says that. That's what those white kids did. They're not going to give you they're not going to pat you on the back and give you a Nobel Prize for that. But that's what those white kids did. Right? They changed the way we look at power in this country. So when they went organized, no, but now we talk about 1%, like everybody knows 1% runs the country. We didn't know that 10 years ago. We know it now. Right? So don't expect a successful movement to get patted on the back. You're not going to get a Nobel Prize in Guggenheim, any of that stuff. You're not going to be on TV. So look at what people do, where you want to get. And where we want to get is the same place, which is why I end up, my long down travels about these things. Look, there's only one planet that we have any kind of say-so about. And it's full of millions of people. Billions of people, about 6 billion now, right? Everybody on this planet, every human being on this planet, say nothing of animal and plant life, right? Should be looked at and put in a situation where the entirety of their lives ought to offer the same opportunity, right, for advancement and achievement and well-being as every single other person on this planet. And that's where we want to get. That when you look in the mirror, you see every other human being on this planet, regardless of what they look like, what they do, where they come from, how they dress, what they eat, and so forth. And that's the world that we're moving toward. And as black people, we move with black people first because that's where we're starting from. But we're not going to end there. Right? This is not just for us. Right? We unite the planet, right, or we will perish. And we pretty much erect the planet to the point where this is not a joke anymore. This is not a slogan anymore. You want to be underwater in 10 years, or you're going to figure out how to deal with global warming. This is not playtime. So our slogan that we did 40 years ago, people thought it was a joke. They ignored it. Now this is do this or die. And it's not just for us now, it's for the whole planet. So the unification we're talking about is right-thinking people, people that believe in justice, right? People that believe in freedom and opportunity and a fair distribution of the resources of the planet, which means if you have a brain that the planet ought to be run by women because they're the majority of the planet. So the notion that women are over here and the planet's over here, that is just stupid. The majority of the human beings on the planet are females. So if you got democracy, then women ought to run it, right? I'm seeing the way I figure it, one person, one vote. If women get the most votes, they should run it, right? Work toward that. Work toward that. It's okay. That's where we started. That's where we're moving. Anyway, I'll stop now. You know, Mohammed and I can go on for hours. Okay, thank you very much.